We just keep raising your hopes for Steve, only to dash him with me. I'm Dennis Neal. We're back with our Newsmax panel. We got Rick Ungar of SiriusXM and John Gizzi, Newsmax's own White House correspondent. Guys, I want to start off by playing a soundbite here. It's number 6, Senator Richard Blumenthal. And the topic I want to go into here, guys, is after every mass shooting, how long is it respectful to wait before you start to politicize it? The shooting happened Friday night. Here's what Senator Blumenthal said Sunday morning.
First of all, my heart and prayers go out to Richard Martinez and the loved ones of all of those victims in Santa Barbara. That gut-wrenching, heartbreaking statement is a reminder of how we felt in the wake of Sandy Hook on December 14th, a year and a half ago, when it seemed like we were on the verge of potentially legislation that would stop the madness and end the insanity that has killed too many young people, thousands, tens of thousands, since Sandy Hook.
Or exploitative. The senator, U.S. Senator from Connecticut itself, where a terrible mass shooting of all those school children happened. What do you say?
I'm sure it was heartfelt, and I'm sure Richard Blumenthal, the senator from my home state of Connecticut, really believes in what he said. As for the timing of it, this happens all the time. No sooner does some tragedy occur than some politician will use it as a clarion call for gun control legislation. And what they forget is that in so many of the states where tragedies have occurred, Connecticut, Wisconsin, where the Sikh temple came under assault, the legislation already exists to identify people who might be a threat through gun ownership. Governor Walker of Wisconsin remarked, it's mental health, not more laws.
Right. Rick?
You know what? It's ridiculous. I mean, yes, I agree with you. Blumenthal jumped the gun. A lot of people on my side, on the more liberal side, jumped the gun. And then you have Joe the plumber. Remember Joe the plumber? He literally wrote the sentence that your dead kids don't trump my constitutional rights. He wrote that on Monday.
That's a little harsh.
It's a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
So guys, look. This is a crazy kid, unfortunately, not a kid who was being ignored. He's been having mental problems since he was a young kid. His parents did their best. They had him in treatment, and unfortunately, people do really terrible things sometimes when they're mentally imbalanced. Let's not make everything about politics, and let's cut these parents and families of these kids a break.
And yet we just respond so instantly. I mean, I do think it is newsworthy when the father of one of the murdered children comes out and he's frustrated and he wants to criticize the NRA. That is his right. That seems within fair comment. It's when the politicians start jumping in on it that I get a little uncomfortable. What do you say, John?
No, I agree with that. And as I said, it's the same old pan to gun control without observation of the laws. And just following what Rick said, Governor Walker of Wisconsin told me that his state already has these laws. They're obviously not working. And the answer is not more laws, but a greater emphasis on mental health and dealing with the problem itself. And he has been able to increase the state's hand in mental health.
Right. You know, Rick, gun control law in this case wouldn't have saved the lives of the 3 men that this madman sliced and knifed to death.
That's right. Look, I mean, it's time for people to understand a few things. Number one, as much as anybody wants to make this about the Second Amendment, move on, because the Supreme Court has already decided the Second Amendment. You may like it, you may hate it, but the Heller case made it clear. What we are debating today is not the Second Amendment. We're debating what steps can we and should we take to try and keep guns out of the hands of people who may not mentally be able to handle it. Focus on that. If Governor Walker has those kinds of laws, far be it for me to ever agree with Governor Walker. It doesn't happen often, but fine, you know, pass more of them.
Yeah, John, one last quick answer. How long before this ends up turning into an anti-video game thing because this shooter played a lot of video games?
I'm sure it's going to go over to an anti-video game movement in a very short time, perhaps a week. And we're going to see many editorials and commentary about it. I'd like
We'll
to
hold
see
that
it's
prediction.
already
Thank you
been
very much. I got to
anti-movies.
wrap, you guys. We're going to be back with more of the Steve Malzberg Show. First, today's America's Moment. Take a look back at the day the Berlin Wall fell. Don't miss this.
It was erected in the dead of night, and for 28 years separated East Germany from West Germany. The Berlin Wall quickly came to symbolize the stark difference between the free West and the communist East. In June of 1987, President Reagan visited the wall at the famous Brandenburg Gate and used the occasion to issue 2 public challenges to then Soviet Premier Mikhail Gorbachev.
If you seek liberalization, come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate.
His second challenge was more blunt, and as it turned out, even more prophetic.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
On November 9th, 1989, 2 years, 5 months, and 1 day after President Reagan's famous challenge, that is exactly what happened. Only the Soviets didn't tear down the wall, the people of Berlin did. Once the East German government announced their borders to the West were open, the free people on both sides of the wall worked in unison to chip it away, piece by piece, until this monument to tyranny was completely destroyed. You're watching An American Moment on Newsmax TV.